Last talk of the day, we're welcoming Mooly from Certora up to the stage. There he is. Big round of applause.
Good to go. Okay. Thank you for staying so long. How many of you are coders? Please don't be shy. Raise your hand. Fantastic. So this is the talk for you. I'm going to try to make it for you, and please, you're welcome to ask me questions during the talk or after the talk. So this is a work that we have been doing together with the SAFE team. And this is a joint work with the Certora team, and Certora is a global company. We have Jochen, who is actually from Germany. We have Shahar Yitzhaki, actually is not Certora and not in Gnosis, he's actually academic at the Technion in Israel. We have Alex Nutz, who's here in the crowd. We have Oded Padon, and we have Armen. And actually we have the SAFE team, which are hiding some of the slides. I think Akashi is here, and we have the team here. So please, move here. So what do we want to do? We want to actually make DeFi more secure. And this is, of course, the task of DeFi, but it's also true for wallets and for other things. And why do we want to make it more secure? Because there's a lot of money involved. These are two recent projects, actually, Maker team, who's actually using the tool to check the code. They're using the Certora verifier. It's actually very interesting that actually they found a 4-year-old bug with the Certora prover. And this is more recent. This is the Lido Finance, basically deploying code and then showing that it's more secure using formal verification. So maybe this is very, very different for you. This is going back to social or communication science. How many of you are familiar with the Johari model? Raise your hand. Not very much. I wasn't aware of it either. But the idea is Johari model is a model that psychologists and people are using to evaluate people. So you basically check how much you are aware of the problems that you have. And this is kind of the window that you will see if you Google. So basically the question is what problems you are aware of and what problems you are not aware of. And the idea is that we think of code security in general and formal method in particular as helping you to get more known about your code. So basically with formal verification, we can prevent known problems, but we can in certain cases prevent unknown problems. And I think I'm going to show you this during your talk, but there are a lot of cases that actually you can see that you can make the code more secure with formal verification. So there are different tools in this space, and actually there are other tools in the Web 2, but Web 3 now, there are more tools in the Web 3. And you see that actually there are 4 kinds of tools. They are all very useful, and you should use them all together. So the simplest one is testing or fuzzing. There are tools, and basically they are easy to use. The second one is static analysis, which is like tools like Slither. And then there's basically where the Certora prover, it's called automatic formal verification. And the last one is Proof Assistant. This is basically a different way to get your code correct. So how are these things are getting you in terms of security? So of course we want to ideally actually find all possible bugs, and it's very hard. But what we are trying to do is to try to eliminate as many as possible and try to check your code on more and more cases. So testing and fuzzing, it gives you some kind of testing on usually cases, and formal verification gives you more coverage. Static analysis is complementary, because basically usually it doesn't know, and we have seen the talk today, it doesn't know what you are looking for, so it can actually find sometimes real bugs and sometimes it finds bugs which are not real. And it's complementary, it's usually easier to use. So this is a very, very simple example. I'm sure many of you have seen it. For example, this is Slither, which is a state-of-the-art tool in static analysis. There are other tools, and you can see that there are many, many red arrows here. Do you want to guess how many of them are real? So unfortunately, in this case, 0, okay? And the idea is that the tool is not actually, the tool is great, but the tool is not, there's some computational problem, but the tool is not aware what you are trying to check. So maybe again, recapping what's going on in this field, you see that there are sort of two extremes. One, these are the very easy to use tools. They're very interesting tools. You see here Echidna, you see Foundry, you see Manticore, Certora. So these are tools which are easy to use, but usually they don't give you the coverage that you want. And on the other hand, you have other tools which are very, very powerful. All of these tools are open source. For example, Lean is a very nice tool developed by Microsoft. So these tools are very, very expressive, but they require mathematical thinking, and you're not even reasoning about the code. You're reasoning about the specification, and you derive the code. So this is very powerful, but it's actually limited by the human. And Certora Prover, we are trying to build something in the middle. And you can argue, so we basically want it to be almost as expressive as these other tools, but we want it to be almost as easy to use as the fuzzers. And you can see that we are not there yet, but this is where we are heading to. So how does the tool work? So basically, we have a language which we call CVL, which is a language for writing properties. And then we have different tools. We have the prover, which is checking the property. We have a Gambit, which is open source property, open source tool that is checking the fact that the specification is okay. And then finally, we have Foresight. We have a tool that actually checks the code when it's deployed for failures of the tool. So these are all together giving you the security that you're interested in. So how does this tool work? You can think about it as comparing two programs. It compared the program you write to the program you wish you had written. So you have the invariant and you have the code. And we can do two things. We can give you a bug, which is interesting, which is a violation of it, and we can give you a proof. And unfortunately, due to a computational problem, this tool can also fail because it's actually addressing a computational problem. So sometimes you wait long and you don't get a result. And this is where you need this complementary tool called Foresight, which is checking things dynamically. This tool also integrates into your CI. So basically, every time you change your code, you have actually seen that it checks your code. And actually, we have recently, with few clients that changed the code, the CI code subtle errors. They change the code, and then you see that the invariant is broken. Inside, it's a fairly complex tool. I'm not going to be able to show you, but there is a white paper about it. It shows there are a lot of things that you can do. It actually checks the bytecode. It has some clever static analysis underneath. It's using open source SMT, so there are a lot of things going on. And the fact that it checks the bytecode, in fact, it identifies bugs in the compiler itself. So that's interesting, for example, like bugs that we have seen in Curve. We handle Solidity. Now we handle also Viper. We are handling now Rust and Solana. So maybe that's a very, very simple. You see, this is the property, and you see that the simple invariant here is the sum of the sum of the balance remains constant. And you see that the tool is actually finding a bug that if you are transmitting a money to yourself, you can actually break this invariant. So this is how this tool is finding bugs. Unlike Certora, it's assumed that the user writes the intended invariant, and then it checks these intended invariants. So this is, of course, not replacing the human. It complements the human. So usually it's fetched with the auditing. We do in Certora auditing. Other companies are doing auditing. Also, there is community. There is Head Finance. There's Code Arena. And they're using our tool, and that's great. And if you guys want to engage with us and work as a security researcher, that's great. You can either go with us or you can go with the other community which work with this. So the idea is that we write the code, but we also write the specification. And this specification is audited by a human and also by tools. And then this specification is shipped with your code to make sure that your code behaves as expected. But of course, you have to take some caution, because of course there may be a bug in the specification itself. We are checking the specification, but there may be a bug in the specification itself. So maybe this is sort of showing you the baby step. We are actually just doing it starting with the Gnosis Safe. And actually, these are properties that we are showing about the Gnosis Safe. So Gnosis Safe is a very interesting wallet because it has unbounded custodian. And still we can reason about it. So we actually don't take into account how many custodians are there. And we are proving interesting properties, like there is an owner that actually stores a single value. Also, we prove that all the elements are reachable from the centennial. So we actually prove reachability property. So what do we mean by reachability? That we can follow unbounded paths. So these are properties that we are showing about the code. And also these are potential bugs. So for example, we are avoiding the bug that the list is cyclic. We are avoiding the bugs that there are 2 pointers. So there you can steal the address. So we are eliminating these interesting bugs. And this is actually the subject of this talk. How can I write this invariant? And interestingly, it's not just a formal verification, it's the fact that how do you express this invariant? So again, this is a very simple part of the code. I don't know if this is where's Michaeli? You are here. Is this code already deployed? Not. It is deployed. Fantastic. So this code is deployed, and as far as we think it's correct, okay? But what's interesting is that you see there is a swap function, and you want to find some interesting properties about the swap function. So here you see all these properties that we write. I know they kind of look tricky. So for example, here we prove that for all the key, if you have a next element, then it's reachable from the head. So this is a property that you cannot write with code. You can only write in specification. But we are able to write and to prove these kind of properties. For example, you prove that every reachable element is allocated, and you prove other properties of the code. So these are things that we express, and we can write and prove them actually with our tool. And this is very, very powerful. And you can say how powerful it is. So my sense of how things are powerful, and this is how I encourage everybody to think in this way, what kind of bugs it can prevent, okay? And unfortunately, so far we have not found bug in the safe. Maybe the safe team says fortunately, okay? But we like to find more bugs in the safe. So we couldn't find any bug. You know what we did? We inserted one, okay? So we inserted bug ourselves. We can also change the code. And we insert actually a tricky bug. This is a tricky bug that allows you to steal the other people's identity, okay? And the tool find it, I don't actually know in what time. Maybe you know how long it took, but it's probably a few seconds, right? So in a few seconds, the tool is able to give you a trace showing you the bug. So that's interesting, that the fact that you have this invariant, it allows you to avoid these kind of bugs. What's the magic? So apparently, actually, there is a very cool idea that we didn't come with. It's Shahar's idea, and actually got the best dissertation for it. It's a very cool idea, and I know it's a bit counterintuitive, especially for people who are outside the field. But the idea is that if you want to reason about reachability, it actually makes more sense to talk about reachability and not to talk about the next pointer. I know this probably sounds very weird to you, but the idea is that you see, if you go from the next to the passes, it's of course more intuitive, but it's harder for the prover. And if you go from the pass if you go sort of inverse, it's easier. And I know this is counterintuitive, but that's actually a beautiful idea. And what it means now, it shows us to prove these properties about reachability and prove properties of reachability for unbounded number of elements. And actually, it's interesting because it's faster than sort of trying it on 3 or 4 elements. So this is actually something that formal verification can give you. So how are we doing with this formal verification? So we actually are still working on it. We work with the safe team. We usually try to write properties and run them by our tool. You see here a list of properties that the safe team and us together, we wrote these together. And not all of them we verified. About 50% so far we have verified. The ones that we didn't verify, we think that most of them is failure of the tool, but we have to check. But I think that's the idea, and usually this is the way we work with formal verification. You debug the rules and you debug the code. And this is what you do. And of course, since we have a complicated technology, we have to run again and again and show these properties. And this makes, at the end, the code more secure and more readable. But it's a process that you have to do. So far, we haven't found bugs. I wish, but maybe it's a good thing. And another thing which is interesting about it, and we heard today, the SAFE team is actually want to integrate wallet with other code. So this is actually where this domain is very interesting, because you can build on top of SAFE and actually use this invariant to extend the code. And then you can check, and of course we can provide access to the technology. So the idea is that we write this invariant, and you now want to extend this code, and we can actually check this invariant. It is maintained by the extension of the code. And of course, occasionally, you would have to write this code. So this is the idea. So maybe I just wrap up. These are sort of maybe things which are simple, but not everybody agrees. So this is sort of my own opinion about this field. So basically, formal verification is an interesting field of computer science, as you probably know. Many Turing Awards, a lot of very, very good people. But the idea is that usually you think of formal verification as finding proof, which is of course the case. But actually formal verification, the biggest value, and this is what we have seen Certora with our client, is actually by finding bugs and finding tricky bugs in the process. The other thing which is interesting about formal verification is that how hard it is. So it's a very hard computational problem. But the hardest thing, and you have seen it even in the talk today, is coming up with these invariants, coming up with these properties that the system can do. And this is something that we are learning from a protocol to a protocol. So there is some kind of a network effect. And we see actually people in the community now coming with more and more interesting rules to check. And then once you have these rules, you can even use a fuzzer. But the idea is coming with a rule is a very interesting thing. Also, another thing that we do not want to say, even when we formally verify code, we only verify the rules that we have. And this means that we have the same bugs in the rules as in the code. It means that, of course, the code is more secure, but the code still can have bugs if the rule, and this has nothing to do with the technology. The question is, what invariant have we formulated? And it doesn't mean it's okay if you're using Certora or other tool. Of course, I mentioned already that formal verification actually doesn't replace auditing. It just makes auditing more fun. And formal verification, the last thing, which is probably the most important, when do you want to do formal verification? So some people will tell you that formal verification is to do last. We want formal verification to do first, because the idea is you get the most benefit by writing the rules even when you write the code. Thank you very much. I'm ready to take questions.
Any questions? One question there.
Okay.
She's bringing them.
Yes.
Here, I can.
Thank you.
I'll bring it. I got it.
So the question I have, you have experience testing or verifying safes. Do you have experience verifying, or have you seen occurrences and verifying Zodiac modules for the safe? And you find that they work nice together with safe.
I didn't understand. Do you repeat, please?
Yeah, so on top of SAFE, there is the Zodiac module extension that allows you to execute code as a SAFE or on behalf of SAFE, right? And you've shown the analysis of SAFE, but do you have examples of analysis of some Zodiac modules or of the Zodiac module factory contract itself?
So this is something that we plan to do now. So basically, we plan to look into code that's built on top of SAFE and take a look. And yes, definitely. But we have been working with other protocols, and we have been sort of working on protocols that build on another protocol. For example, we work with the compound team, and the compound team build on Uniswap. So yes, so the nice thing about formal method, it's supposed to be modular. So it's supposed to let you build stuff on top of stuff. And actually, modularity helps you also in making the problem more tractable. So yes, we are thinking about it, and together with the SAFE team, we are working on it. I think there was another question here.
Is it a quick one or is it longer?
Yeah, fine.
I think we might have to cover it on the side if that's okay. We're out of time. I'm
Okay.
very sorry. Thank you, Mooly.
Thanks
Thank you
a
for
lot.
your work with Certora, formally verifying safe contracts. Very important work. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
With that makes the end of SafeCon Genesis, the first ever, and we hope many more to come. So thank you for joining us in accelerating the transition to smart accounts. Big thank you to our sponsors and our partners, Fileverse, Gnosis, Gelato, and Karpatki for keeping this free and amazing for all of you. And last but not least, I have a couple of names to say thank you to, so I'm going to read them off so I don't miss anybody. First of all, Finn, our events lead at SAFE, pulled all of this off. So a huge thank you to Finn for making this happen. Finn, wherever you are, as I read names, maybe stand up if you're around. He's probably outside. Finn, Ani, Debbie, Diego, Diogo, Danilo, Leah, Lucas, Raquel, Raul, Sam, Tanya, Usama, Herman, everyone else from the SAFE team involved for making this happen. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Pizza, drinks are out there. Hang out until 9:30. Enjoy the nice Berlin summer. And yeah, hopefully see you at DAPCon. Thanks, everybody.